We have a pretty good lineup tonight again. Buddy Bowman, Steve Campbell, Leland Birch, Walker Birch, Don Brown, Steve Campbell. The ones on the agenda, of course, it's open mic. Anybody wants to get up and retaliate if they get talked about. Got Eddie Hardy way back in the back. He's going to get up, tell a few jokes, a couple of lies. Nothing like career folks. You know that. You meet them everywhere you go, or you know somebody. I'm going to tell you a little story while everybody's eating and getting warmed up. Kathy and I used to shag a little bit one time. So we have a pretty wide network of shag friends. One night we were out shagging this couple that a lot of you know. Jim and Donna May. Maybe y'all know them. Walter knows them. All you guys know them anyway. We know them through the shag community. So they come up to us one night, we're out there and said, "Hey, you know Yvonne Lynn?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know Yvonne." We're right in her in Panama City at the shag party down there. So they talked about her all night long. She didn't have road with her, she was out with a bunch of ladies that were partying down in Panama City. And that's kind of odd, Panama City. We went down there one time, Kathy and I went with Jim and Donna, a bunch of other folks, and we almost froze to death. It got down to about 25 degrees. We did not take one winter piece of clothing at all. We flew down on Thursday, I think, and Jim and Donna had already driven down, and we shared a condo, and everybody kept sending us pictures, and everybody was laying out by the pool on the beach having a big time. Boy, we got down there, and the first night was really nice, and then a cold wave came in, and we didn't have one long sleeve shirt and no jacket and nothing. So we had a miserable time. I walked to the Walmart store and got us the best jackets I could find, which in Panama City, they don't carry real heavy coats in Florida. But I'm not going back. That was a miserable experience. But I ran into Yvonne last night. She's up from Augusta, her and Ray, and came to see her mom. And I told her about this event. And so they're here tonight. So Yvonne and Ray and Miss Lynn are sitting back there. Glad to have them with us. Okay, who wants to lead us thing off tonight? It's going to be a toss-up. A couple of people have already told me no. So I know everybody don't want me to talk all night because I've already run out of stories. Eddie, you want to lead us off? Steve, one of them, somebody. Ronnie, Bruce. No. All right, let's see. Somebody got a coin? We'll toss it. See who's coming first. Buddy Bowman.
You been back there? Okay. See some familiar places. Excuse me. Familiar people around here tonight. We're allowing some people other than we're high oldies in. Horace Jones, Jackie, O'Burn's High Boy, Taylor's Boy. Wasn't even Wade Hampton then, was it? Well, it's good to have you. Okay. I'd like to thank Lisa Hawkins Lynn for getting this thing together. Lisa, it'd be nice if you came up really first and thank a couple people while you're here, sweetie. Come on up.
I wanted to thank especially Lisa Garland with Stomping Grounds for always offering her a venue for us to do whatever we want to do. And she just says, Lisa, you and Claudette and the crew just do what you need to do to make it fun. So y'all please give her a round of applause because this is her job. And tonight I want to tell you that we have a corporate sponsor, 2 of them for tonight's event. And that's so that all the pictures will go on Greer Today online. And that is run by Scott Stevens and Jim Thayer, who are both here tonight. We're really happy to have them here. So we appreciate y'all, Jim and Scott, very much. The 2 sponsors are Tony Norris for Toyota of Beasley and Stan Coster at Valentine's Trip. And they graciously said, we'll sponsor it, we'll promote it, we'll put all the pictures online for you. Everything you need to know about, you can go online and look for them. So, and one of the reasons we wanted to do this tonight was to have a kickoff for May. You know, we do this big reunion every May 17th or the Saturday after Mother's Day. So please go ahead and put it on your calendar now. Tell everybody we have big things planned. We're not going to tell you what they are because it's fun. But anyway, we'll be at the Cannon Center again this year and just mark off May 16th and May 17th. And we hope to see every restaurant filled between 5 and 8 o'clock, and then at 7:30 or 8, we want you to come on down to the Cannon and be with us. Y'all have fun tonight. That's what we want to do. Thanks, man.
Okay. Not quite, no. I don't want to walk big backwards, but okay. That's good. All right. Do you remember when the trivialities of today were a big deal? Some of the things that we think are trivial today, they were a big deal back in the 50s, 60s. We're quick to dismiss something in this fast-paced society as kid stuff. And yet we're gathered here to remember the times when we were young, all of us, when we were kids. And it takes, in my opinion, it takes empathy and a lot of it to feel as we once did, just to backtrack and put ourselves in the mind of that 16, 17, 12, 13-year-old, whatever age you may have been at that time. Problems were magnified then. What seems trivial today really was a big deal in our lives. Our first dance, our first competition in sports, remember that. Or Birch Jones, some of those guys played basketball and you didn't want to look at the crowd the first time you went out and there was a crowd of people and you had to play in front of them. You just felt like you wanted to occupy this little space, and then eventually you felt a little bit more at ease, and then you were taking it all in before it was over with. But that first time was kind of like you were in a state of shock. And I think that remembering that, then we gain a little insight in our own kids today, you know, when we're trying to understand them. If someone had mental problems in those days, they were crazy. I mean, you know, we didn't separate the little different things in psychology. Schizophrenia, manic depressive were terms for the future. realizing these things are serious, I never make light of it. My mother suffered from a type of dementia. And even though it was comedy at times, you know, you were sensitive to her. I mean, you know, anybody that's been around somebody with dementia or whatever, you're sitting there for the first time and with your mother, and she says, "Both Gillespie, get out from under the house." You know, and then, but eventually some of that passed, and she got her old self back and went on to live to the ripe old age of 89. You know, so we're thankful for that. I do wonder, however, if maybe we haven't gone overboard with advice from various sources. I turned on the TV. I don't know if you. I get up early in the morning. I never sleep past 5:30 most of the time. I'm usually out of bed at 5:30. I turned on the TV early one Saturday morning, and you know the news didn't come on. News and weather didn't come on Saturday morning like it usually does. It's later on in the day. And so I began searching. I turned on TV early one Saturday morning and started pacing up and down with the remote. And here were some of the choices that you could find on TV. I want you to think in the back of your mind what you may have found on TV when you were a kid, if you had a TV yet. If you had a TV, a lot of us didn't. I hate my butt was one. Maybe I missed something, but we didn't talk about those things, not on TV. Classic rock workout. Sorry, keep turning. To be announced. You know, the space is so kind of cheap that time of day, you know. You can still, and they couldn't occupy that space. Keep me in suspense. Facelift secrets. Now, don't squirm around, some of you. Love making secrets. Heck, you can get an education with those in the grocery store line today. You know, all you gotta do is just pick one up while you're waiting in line. I hate my wrinkles. Girl, this is more, have you noticed which gender this is directed toward more? The bra reinvented. I keep paging, come on. Mommy needs to get herself off. Off where? And I was looking for the Weather Channel. Okay? None of these were subjects we heard discussed, believe me. We also didn't see condoms advertised on TV, things like that. So believe me when I say we were naive. We acted like we were worldly, but we weren't. We weren't worldly at all. Father Knows Best was fine for TV. Robert Young, sitting there with his pipe and a cardigan or smoking jacket, and a daughter appears on the scene, and he says, "Yes, princess, what is it?" You remember that? You remember Robert Young? He always looked like the perfect father, and they were the perfect family, right? Okay. The family was the model for America. And so she proceeds to tell him her problem. My dad and mom were working the second shift then in the mill. All right, so we kind of learned to work things out on our own. You know, we didn't have but you had that model there on TV. Today, there's Dr. Oz is there to pass on health tips. Dr. Phil solves our problems, along with Oprah. Jerry Springer will even let you fight it out on his show. And you can get it all worked out, any problems in Judge Judy's courtroom. You know. The lady makes more than anybody in show business I've heard. I like $900,000 per session every time she gets on TV. And there are people who eat it up. Okay? In 1951, Greer We did not have those luxuries. We didn't even have a TV at that time. Okay? If someone had a problem, we did like Crocodile Dundee, tell Dunk. Dunk tell someone else, and pretty soon the whole village knows, and it's not a problem any longer. That's what we did with our problems. I'd like to read you a little small thing on, it's called The Tiny Cabin. I have a lady who was, that I talked with years ago, and who's retired, sent me this. The Tiny Cabin. A social worker from a big city up north recently transferred to the mountains of West Virginia from Connecticut to West Virginia, and was on her first tour of the new territory when she came across the tiniest cabin that she had ever seen in her life. Intrigued, she went up and knocked on the door. "Anybody home?" she asked. "Yep," replied a kid's voice through the door. "Is your father there?" asked the social worker. "Pa? No, he left before Ma came in," said the kid. "Well, is your mother there?" The social worker persisted. "Mom? No, she left just before I got here," said the kid. "But," protested the social worker, thinking that she would surely need to intervene in this situation, says, "Are you never together as a family?" "Sure, but not here," says the kid. "This is the outhouse." Government workers are so smart. Aren't you overjoyed that they'll soon be handling all our financial, educational, and medical dilemmas? It's nice for you to zone, I'd like you to zone in for a minute and think back to something that really, really made you nervous when you were a teenager. Even cost you sleep that today you wouldn't even give a second thought. It wouldn't bother you at all. I don't remember the word phobia being used. We were just scared. We were scared of the dark. We were scared of high places. Or we were scared of closed-in places. You know, a trip with Billy Gross down to Billy Gross and I, he talked me into doing a lot of stuff, but one of them was spelunking. Spelunking, by the way, is cave exploring. We went 2.5 miles down into the cave once. And I promise you, it brought out all of our phobias. I went in the mouth of the cave, I started sliding backwards in the dark for like 50 feet, screaming. And Gross said, "Are you okay?" Well, no, I was always afraid of the dark. I think I got over the fear of the darkness there, and a few other things. The fear of rejection is something that has impacted everyone. It probably started with some of us who were breastfed babies, who were weaned. Think about it, you were rejected. The question then was, the kid, after he's been rejected, and as I recall, ladies did all sorts of things to wean their children. And I'm thinking about the kid, oh great, what's next? Some of them were never weaned. Watch out, ladies, you got some still out here that aren't weaned. We've all been rejected one way or another. Unrequited love is one way. You know, you get your heart broke, you get back on the horse and ride again. You get over it. Okay, loans from a bank, that's rejected. Getting something published, didn't make a cheerleader squad. Think about that. These were big things to people when they happen. Not making an athletic team. Not making an athletic team. I still have some memories about that today. The first time I went out for a team, a baseball team, Little League, I'd never played before in my life. And I don't blame you don't have so many uniforms. And I came up short. I didn't get the uniform. Okay, so I didn't get it. That's the one thing that I remember about Hal Huey. When I was 13, I was playing Western Carolina League. He had one last uniform, and I wasn't the 13. And I could lay claim to being Murray Hall's teammate for 2 weeks. And I got to be Murray Hall's teammate. I thought that was great for 2 weeks. And I got a uniform, you know, so I finally got to get on the field that I loved. Remember getting enough nerve to walk across the floor and ask someone to dance. Now, that might sound small today, but you think about it a minute, because when you were young, let's say junior high, and the wallflowers would stand over on one wall, the girls are standing on the other side, and for you to ask a girl to dance, you had to walk across that floor. Think about it a minute. You had to walk across that floor, and you had to think about being rejected in front of your friends. And then on the other side of the coin, think about the girl on the other side that wasn't asked to dance. Because this is a two-way thing. They're standing over there, and if you were left standing all night, no one asked you for a dance. Well, you don't know that. You didn't think about that. You just thinking about yourself going over there and asking that girl to dance. And finally, you take that long, you get enough guts, that girl that that Becky Smith, you know, she didn't do this to me. I'm just using that as an example. But you walk across that floor and say, oh, I've been looking at that good-looking girl so long. And then I'm going to ask her to dance at the teenage kind of thing. So you go over there and you ask her to dance. And then you get across there and your buddies are watching because they're taking this in. They don't have anything to risk. We watch to see what happens here. And she says, nah, I'm setting this one out. So you kind of slink back. You slink back to your wall and hide. You feel like 100,000 eyes are watching, right? Okay. So you got to remember this. If this happens one time to someone, what you didn't see at the time, prom is going to be approaching someday. Prom is going to be approaching. Prom and the drama that was created, the strategies. There are girls today that are still feeling rejected because they weren't asked, and somebody didn't consider the fact that it was because some guy didn't want to get shot down. You know, they're afraid they're going to ask somebody to get shot down. So some of them wound up not getting dates. I like the ones who went stag. I went stag my senior year. I went stag and just danced with everybody, you know, and felt good doing it. Guys and girls at the drive-in. Some heavy breathing and petting going on. If it's wintertime, the windows are fogging up. She realizes that it's about to get out of hand and says, we need to stop. We can't do this. I can't stop you. And you're thinking, good. I said, stop. And she finally says, trying to put her on a guilt trip because of being turned down, he says, do you realize that I could be a victim of blue balsia? Because of that, he asked, what is that? She says. He goes on to explain that the blue balsia syndrome is when the rejected male suffers pain in the frontal abdominal region of his body. Now, Don Brown, to my knowledge, was never rejected. He never was rejected. But just witnessing others being rejected caused a dark cloud to form over that guy. Just just watching other people being rejected put a dark cloud over him. He was just in the worst spot of his life and was terribly, terribly low. He even came to me about his problem, being kind of a victor, big brother, and I did the best I could to bring the guy back to life, but he needed someone a little more professional. He had lost his mojo, and he needed to get it back, his confidence. I told him that was way out of my area. I wasn't equipped to handle this problem, and that he needed to go see another victor brother, Duck Stewart. Now, Duck lives in South Myrtle Beach, around Garden City, and does a lot of different stuff. Taking charge of people's emotional problems is something he is good at. He's cool and a take charge kind of guy, being a former Greer High quarterback and all. And knowing Don made it even better. So I talked Don into going down there, reasoning that it would do him good just to get away and pick his spirits up, and he did. Duck even had his own advice call there, called Dear Duck, and his own counseling office. Yeah. Don asked him when he walked in if he had any kind of a license. He said, no, but I did steal a Holiday Inn Express once. Now sit down and tell me about your problem. Don did, and Duck said, boy, I mean, he went through his own, his problem about not having any confidence, and he was low. Kind of reminds you of that Godfather scene, you know, when the singer comes in and tells him the Godfather's his problem. And he says, get yourself together, you know, and smacks him. So that's what Duck did. That's what Duck did. You're a victor boy, he said. Victor boys bounce back. You're right, Don said, and began to perk up a little bit. You're a stud, Don. Went and chased you down the street. Remember that? Do you remember that, Don? Duck really had this guy sky high again. Maybe, I'll tell you what, he was jacked up. He was ready to go. He said, now I want you to go put on your bathing suit. And while you're at it, stuff a potato down your bathing suit and give the women something to look at. Just to give them something to look at. And strut down that beach. Don't walk. You strut down that beach and you show your stuff. Does that work, dumbass? Works for me, said Duck. Now get out of here and show those women what they've been missing. So here he goes. Now get the picture here, okay? As Larry Munson, the Georgia announcer, would say, get the picture. Here he is in his bathing suit. Sucks that chest, sticks that chest out, sucks in his gut here and starts walking down that beach. These legs. He just is grinning every once in a while. He'll stop and give a Tom Jones pelvic thrust. You remember those? Tom Jones? Yeah. And he kept walking out of the beach and people were giving him looks, and he said, oh, this is not working, something's not right. And he's getting back down again, because it's just not working. So his head goes down again. There he goes back to Duck's office. And Duck said, what's wrong? He said, well, it's just, they were cold to me. Now they're running in the opposite direction.
Bless it.
And he said, well, come here, let me take a look at you. And he looks him over real good. And he said, well, I think I see your problem. He said, you need to take that potato out of the back of your bathing suit and put it in front. I do hope that any of you have a similar problem with a friend like Doc to help, and good luck with your folks.
Give a little feedback. One of the crews gonna come up and fix that for us. Thank you, buddy. Christmas Eve, I was sitting on the computer, Kevin was upstairs, and I saw this truck pull in the driveway. A lot of you know where we live, so been up there, a lot of you been up there. Dead end street, about 10:30 in the morning, and I looked and said, well, I don't know who that is, so kind of headed toward the front door, and I hollered upstairs to Kathy and said, somebody pulled in the driveway, don't come downstairs. So, anyway, it was Buddy. Had 3 baskets, wonderful fruit, homemade jellies, candy. Santa Claus came early to the house. Appreciate that, buddy. And I gave my brothers one each as instructed. Homemade jelly, something they used to do a long time ago. Not very many people do that anymore. Homemade muscadine jelly. He told me the other night he went out in the woods and shook the trees with muscadine out. And I believe it. Living in Georgia, a lot of muscadines down there. By the way, a little bit about Buddy. He grew up on about 8 different mill hills, and he ended up at Victor in the good part of his life. And I've known him all my life. I can't remember, just like Don Brown, I can't remember not knowing Don. Buddy, but Buddy now lives in Gainesville, Georgia. He went to the University of Georgia. Lives in Gainesville, still coaching football down there in the little academy. So go get him, buddy. If you need any advice, call Doug. Yeah. Living on Victor was a little bit of an experience. Looking back on it now, Don Brown was an only child. I don't know if y'all knew that or not. How many of you knew Lewis Brown? Don's daddy. Don was just like him. So I had the fortune of growing up on Mill Hill. Like, he was on 21st Street, we were on 20th Street, just right down. But Lewis Brown used to crack me up, even as a small child. I can remember he was absolutely hilarious on the video. Funny, got a great sense of humor, and told stories all the time. He smoked pipe all the time. And he'd sit with that pipe in his mouth, tell some of the funniest stories you ever heard in your life. Never a dull moment in the news. And then right next door to him was the Bradleys. FC Vera. Let me see if I can name them all. Gerald, Nikki, Barbara. Wilton, that's the one I was trying to think of.
Good coon dogs, too.
Yeah. So there's 6 of them living in a 4-room house with 1 bathroom. Right, and right close to you, I can't remember exactly where the Hawkins live. There's what, about 7, 8 of them in that house. And anybody know what House Cat's real name was? Tommy. Anybody know what Gopher's real name was? Steve. Steve Gopher. Anybody know what Duck's real name is? James Don. That's where the duck came from. So, our mama had 3 of us. Me, Duck, and Joe. And that was a handful. As I said, a long time ago, somebody probably already knew it anyway, but our mom was a single mom before it was fashion. And, she worked in the mill in Appalachian for years and years, and then she transferred over to the Greer mill before she retired. Don was over on the cell phone. Don, after my mama died, Don mentioned that our mama was basic, and she was, she was raised in a big family. When I grew up, there were aunts and uncles and cousins always at the house. I mean, it was just total chaos all the time growing up. So we had lots of role models growing up. And Buddy mentioned just now he was kind of a role model on the Mill Hill, and I can remember that. He was a real good role model for me growing up. Always took care of the younger kids, and always helped out in any way he could. Everybody helped everybody out. Okay, we still got folks lined up top. Who's gonna go next? You got to retaliate?
Well, I got my finger in the right place.
All right. Ron Brown.
Buffalo man.
Can't believe I've done that to me,
I figured you would retaliate.
I might.
But I never did have a problem asking girls to dance. There was something that I asked for, I had a little problem with, but I didn't know it anyway. I'd go ahead and ask. Everybody come down here, and I didn't go back there and see, they mentioned Miss Lynn, I didn't go back there and see her. Cause I know if I went back there, I'd stay back there with her. That's a good woman. I love her. She's just like a mom to me. Used to hit me in the head once in a while, even though I didn't need it, did I? Got storytellers down here tonight, and telling stories, I think it's probably about the best way you can communicate. They say that a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I agree with that sometimes. But you ain't got pictures of things like Buddy talked about in the past, down on the movie and stuff like that. You can't show your kids or your friends or your family what you're thinking about. But if they look at you and you telling a story and you smile and laugh, or a tear runs down your cheek, or you choke up, they know how you felt back then. They know what's going on. And a story is a wonderful way to communicate. And we all like things you tell a good story, but that ain't always true. There's some people you just love to hear them tell a story, and there's some people you can't wait till they get through telling the story. You wish they'd held up. And if you tell a story, you got to remember there's some people out there that they don't care what you've seen, where you've been, or what you've done. We just don't care, and they don't want to hear. But down here tonight, everybody come down here to hear a story, I guess, unless your wife just made you come down here and you don't want to come. If that's the case, just bear with me, and we're dreaming, and let's try to get through this. But I feel like I can tell a pretty good story. But saying that, I gotta say this, and I hate to say this, but it's the truth. If you find somebody that's a pretty good storyteller, they probably a pretty good liar. And well, now, just cause you're a good liar, it don't mean you are a liar. you know, Chuck Norris, he's probably a pretty good killer, but he probably ain't never killed nobody. You know, just cause you got the capabilities, it don't mean you do it, and it don't mean you're a big liar. But, you just remember when these storytellers get up here tonight, if they do tell you a lie, you probably don't believe it, cause they're pretty good at it. You know, you gotta watch it. But that's the way it goes. We talk about stuff like that, and some people just lie, and they ain't no good at it. They ain't no good storyteller. They tell lies, and they be liars, and everything. I have a cousin, he lied so much, his mom didn't believe nothing he said. And, when I was born, before I learned how to talk, I learned how to lie. That's the truth. Now, when you raised on the mill hill, they wasn't none of these disposable diapers and stuff like that then. I mean, you had that old rough cloth, and when they cleaned your diapers, they washed them and hung them out on the line, and they dried. And when they took them off the line, you could pick them up on one end, and I mean, it was like a rick-rack paddle, it's flat. And when they put them things on you, it's rough. And I mean, you just a little baby, you learn how to lie, you be laying there in the bed, and your mama come by, and you know, she said, "Don, did you do a stinky?" I couldn't even talk. I'd shake my head, cause when they changed your diaper back in, your mama grabbed you by the leg and throw you up on a flat surface. It didn't have to be bed. It didn't have to be a tabletop. It might be the banisters or a car hood or something like that. It throw you down on it. And you had them big old long safety pins in there. You know, they undo them things and jerk them loose. And she'd take her left hand and grab your left ankle and pull your butt up off the floor. And then she'd get one of them wash rags and dry it out on the line. Had all of that terry cloth stuff and lots of sticking out on it. And she would wipe off everything that wasn't supposed to be there. Pull on that thing. And sometimes she'd pull on something that was supposed to be there. You know, it was rough. Get a diaper train. You learn how to lie early. And you lie about it. And when you get in the habit of lying, it's hard to get out of that. The other night, me and Sherry was at the house, and we eat some butter beans and onions and cornbread, and then we went downstairs watching the football game. And about the end of the second quarter, I looked over at Jerry. I said, "Did you do a stinky?" She ain't said nothing. She just shook her head, you know. And there wasn't but two of us in the room. And both of us know who was telling the truth, you know. One of us felt the truth, the other one felt relief. But you go through that. I mean, that's just like you go all the way through life. And stories is a wonderful way of communicating. And it's like Buddy was talking about television. We got television, we got these Bluetooth, satellite radio, computers. There's all kind of ways to communicate. And television, he mentioned Judge Judy. I'm hooked on Judge Judy. I love that hateful old woman. I mean, she's something else. But I don't know if y'all seen it or not, but you need to watch Maury. I don't know what his last name is, Maury Pojak or something like that. But the whole show is devoted to finding out a baby who his daddy is. They're doing DNA. And they got people on there, go up there and, well, there was a woman on there, her name was Shanaka. And Shanaka was on Maury. And when she got on there, Maury said, "Now," Shanaka said, "Why are you here today?" And Shanaka said, "Maury," said, "the reason I'm here today," he said, "Roscoe, my husband, he's making some remarks and discriminations against me about our children. So we got 8 children. And said, Roscoe said that number 8 ain't his. Number 8 is a touchdown. We named number 8 touchdown because we thought that that might help him get a scholarship, get an education. And we know that a scholarship is important to anybody that wants to get in the NFL. So we want him to go on and get a good education. But anyway, we got 8 children, and I know touchdown is here too. Now number one baby, I ain't positive about him, but now, when the number 1 was born, me and Roscoe had been married 3 months. Of course now, Roscoe is strong in the running.
Where are you going?
For being the daddy of number 1, because Roscoe been on the playing field as much as anybody else had, you know what I'm saying? But I was experimenting with some under-the-counter drugs, and some of that Boone's Farm wine, and I was kind of loose in the leg back then, so there is some doubt on number 1. But number 2, 3, 4, and 5, they definitely Roscoe. They look just like Roscoe. They all got them big watermelon head and little bitty ears and big wide feet and little short fat toes. It was just him, Roscoe. Roscoe can't name them. That's what it is. One of them is a passing lane, toe blue, side swipe, and in the ditch. That's what they named them. We named them about Roscoe been watching the National Geographic and outdoor stuff. That's what we put them on. So we always name our children about stuff like that. But stories is a wonderful way to communicate. And that's why I'm down here tonight. Everybody wants to talk about stuff that happened in Greer. Showing up, y'all feel confident if you watch Maury and watch Shanaka and Roscoe, y'all find out about number 8. Y'all gotta watch out there. Somebody asked me to tell a story, it's a true story, right across the street up here.
What is your
There used to be a dime store.
I don't work here.
I don't know what it was, McClellan's or what was it? Was it McClellan's? Well, around Christmas time, down on the Mill Hill, it was different than any place in the world. The Mill Hill at Christmas was different. You could smell it. We had cedar trees. We went out, cut them down, and carried them home and put them up, and that's what your Christmas lights, you hung them on. And you could smell those things. At the mill, where Mother and Daddy worked, at the Y, we had Christmas Day. We had Santa Claus. And you went down to the mill and they had bags down there and they was filled with candy, fruit, nuts, and there was some toys in there. That was a wonderful time. You went down there. But I never could understand why at Christmas you had things that you never had the rest of the year. Now I love fruitcake. I don't care if it's July, May, or what, I like fruitcake. And chocolate covered cherry. You can't get no chocolate covered cherry except at Christmas. You ain't never seen no chocolate covered cherry nowhere. But they was one thing that I liked better than anything at Christmas. I didn't really know what it was. I know what my mom and daddy told me it was. But I was older when I found out what it really was. It was chocolate covered Brazil nuts. But that ain't what we call it. And I love them things. Well, you never did have no money to to buy anything, but at Christmas, when it got cold, people started killing hogs. They killed hogs around Christmas time and started having ham and sausage and stuff ready for Christmas. Well, there was a place down on Victor, down on the corner of Snow Street, Hog Foot Inn, run a place down there, and he had a slaughter pen. He killed hogs down there. And when I was a boy, I used to go down there and help Mr. Denny clean hogs. You scrape them, you do whatever you had to do, and you make some extra money. Well, I made some money, and I loved them Brazil nuts, but I didn't call them Brazil. Chocolate covered Brazil. So when it comes after I cleaned them hogs down there, and I got that dollar, I said I'm going up to the dime store on Saturday, and I'm gonna get me some of them Brazil nuts. Well, Saturday I went up there, and what it was, the candy counter, the person that worked in the candy counter stood in the center, and it was glass racks all the way around it, and you could look in there, you could walk up there and point at it, and say, I want some candy or cashew nuts or whatever you wanted to, point at them. And she had a scoop, and she'd stick it in there. And if you wanted a quarter's worth, she'd put them up there, and they had an old scale, and she'd start checking them nuts or candy off in that thing, and she'd set that thing right there, a quarter's worth of each cent, whatever you was gonna get. And she'd check them in there, when that thing leveled off, she'd pull it off and pour them in the sack and hand it to me. Well, I said, I'm gonna get me $1 worth of Brazil nuts. But I didn't call them Brazil. So I went up there, and that day that I went in there, they was mopping the floor, and they had it roped off. So I couldn't walk down there in front of the counter and point at what I wanted. And they had a new woman working up there. And she weighed about 250 pounds. And she had a mustache. And I walked up there, and she looked at me. I stand there looking at that candy counter, and she pointed a big round black finger at me and said, what you want, boy? And I got 50 cents worth of jelly beans. I didn't get one of them Brazil nuts. I still love it. Life is real. Before I sit down, I want to say something to you guys. I got a project going. Me, my wife, Steve Campbell, Northern Border Band, used to be the out-of-towners band, their Carolina Coast Band, and a lot of my other friends that you see sitting around here at the table. And sure enough, I have a grandson that's 3. And when he was born, he had a problem. He had some tumors and things on his brain. And anyway, we didn't know if he'd walk or talk or what he'd do. But he's in the Myers Center, and they picked him. And he's walking, he's talking, and he's making a lot of progress. And I told Sherry, while the Myers Center has done this, done it for him, I want to help him. And Steve in Northern Border and a bunch of our friends, we used to have a party up in the mountains. We called it Sugar Liquor. I'm sure there's a bunch of y'all that came there, had a good time. Well, we're going to do it one more time, and we're going to do it for the Myers Center. It's April 19th at Jerry Bruce's farm. And all y'all gonna be invited. We're gonna get our flyers and things out, but You hear us all tell stories up here tonight. Gundy talked about us, and we was raised up there on Mill Hill together. We played ball together. Buddy played ball together. We talk about running, jumping, and diving in the water and having a good time. We all been blessed, and here's a good bunch. And we really want to do something to try to help the Meyer Center. We're not doing something to pay into my grandchild's doctor bills or anything. We're doing something to help the Meyer Center, to help another child have a good time. So when you guys see this, it's going to be called Beans, Beach, and Bluegrass. When you see these flyers come out, I'm asking you, help us to help them give another kid a chance. I appreciate y'all. I have a good time. Y'all.
Thank you, Don. See Stan Coster slithered in. Don and I go back so far, but his mother and my mother were real good friends. And I remember when I was smaller, when you're little, you're growing up, somebody 2 years, 3 years older than you think they were a lot older than you, but they're really not. But you don't get to hang out with them because they hanging out with their friends. They don't want little brother hanging out with them. But when Don was playing high school football, I was too young. I think I was still in middle school. And Lewis and Alice come out, pick me and my mama up, take us. We'd all go to football games. Because Don, my other two brothers were all playing on the varsity. So we'd go everywhere. And we had a good time doing it. That's where I really learned a lot about Lewis Brown. Good guy, he was a great guy, Miss Lewis. And Alice too, she was a wonderful, wonderful person. Anyway, we started this thing 1 year ago, this storytelling thing. Since then, a year ago, anybody have a birthday? You need to recognize. Anybody had a birthday in the last year? Okay. Nobody had a birthday except Leila. Okay. I had one. July. But, okay, so nobody's had a birthday. Happy birthday, Lou. Congratulations, buddy. Getting old, and when you get ready to turn 65, I looked around this room, I see about 3 or 4 people that might be 65. Have you ever seen somebody's mail come in wanting you to get on their Medicare thing? How many reams and tons of paper come to the house wanting you to buy Medicare insurance? It's unreal. I'm already past the 65 mark. Kathy's approaching it, so now it all comes in her name instead of my name. So we're still getting the same stuff from the same people with the rough name on it. And I was talking to Walter the other night. We got dinner together and kind of talking about the medications we take. You think about it, I don't know how many of you have problems, issues, with high blood pressure, heart problem, whatever the case may be. You take this medication, that medication, whatever. And it's a routine now when I get up. Medicine, take this one. And one thing that really changed in my life is supplements. You gotta take supplements for this, that, and the other. And so anyway, my screwdrivers now are orange flavored Metamucil white. Knock it all out at one time, right? So anyway, since nobody had a birthday this year except me and Leila, who's up next? Steve? Leila? You want to come on up? Miss Leila Burke.
bad to be in an oldies reunion, and look around and you're the oldest in the room. But that's me, but I appreciate the opportunity to come here and make a few shameless plugs for a book that I just published. It's called Greer, South Carolina, the Center of the Universe. And if you like Greer, you really like this book. It's really got a lot about Greer High School in it, and Greer football, and some of my old team members. Basically, it's a lot of columns that I wrote for the newspaper, also record columns, and it took me a while to put it together. Thanks to Rory and Jim Fair for their help, and my wife Margaret. We got it done and we got it published. And I have some copies here tonight if you'd like to buy a copy. They're $15. I need to sell some. I need to break even on this project. I'm going to read you a couple of little excerpts out of the book. It may spark some memories. One item is about a get-together we had for our class reunion about 40 years after we graduated in 1957. When we graduated, this was 40 years later. And you may recognize the names of some of these people. And I'm going to read you a little bit about Greer High football. The next time our class of 57 gathered, we actually removed, the next time our class of 57 gathered, we actually removed the Virginia deal from the list of departed classmates. Because we found out she wasn't really dead. And John Eller, who is now a preacher in Georgia, spent the weekend attempting to find out how the deal came back to life. It would make a great sermon. He figured. Our fourth grade teacher, Miss Elizabeth Probst, recalled that I had overturned a glass of purple Kool-Aid on Loretta Miller's white evening gown on the night of May 3rd, 1949. That was during a banquet she gave to teach a class while there. That was, and I have not spilled on the rock all over. And Father Bradley had slapped me on the back. Here. Juanita Guthrie Rogers summoned the nerve to venture among us again at the reunion and was reminded of the day that the students consumed an entire English class period trying to guess the name of her boyfriend, who turned out to be Joe Rogers. Retired Principal B.L. Quick declared the reunion to be mighty fine. He also confirmed most of the tall tales, including some acts, and earned us a summons to his office. Like the time Edward Fox hid in the back seat of Larry Bright's car after the football game. Bright, who had driven the fan bus to the game in the back, waited until the parking lot had cleared out before heading home. When he put the car in gear, the voice in the back seat called out, "I'm not ready to go." And frightened out of his wits, Bright jumped out of the moving car, rolled across the parking lot and knocked over a flagpole. This is 40 years later. Even after all those years, Mr. Christmas had to learn how to follow him through the car. Then there was the day Fox was driving Edward Hyatt home from school. They were both looking at girls walking along North Main Street. And Fox slammed into the back of a pickup truck and it stopped at a traffic light. That was before seatbelts, and Hyatt's head shattered the windshield. Jimmy Howell was one of the first on the scene, and he offered Hyatt a ride to the hospital, provided you don't bleed in my car. Class President Gene Gibson recalled that it fell his lot to measure the seniors for graduation gowns. Nancy Fincher McManus remembered the gowns came only in two sizes, 32 or 36, depending on the girl's chest. Faye, Donald, and Nolan pointed out that most of us still have those same measurements, but they're in different places. Gibson became so enamored of the assignment of measuring for gowns but he has carried a tape measure with me ever since. And now a little brief excerpt about football. There's a good bit about career high football in the book. And those of you who already got the book, just pardon me, but here it is. It's a Friday night in late October. The year was 1954, and Greer High was locked in a fearsome battle with Hendersonville High. As the Yellow Jackets pushed the ball forward toward the partisan crowd waiting just beyond the end zone, a timeout was called. The head official marched over to the Yellow Jackets huddle and announced, the Hendersonville end on the Mr. McLemore's side of the line is missing his front teeth. It was like a weather report. Enough said, period. There was no yellow flag, no sermon, no threat of litigation. That was half a century ago, and the sport is ready to change. Back in the 50s, you had to be slightly crazy to play football. Even on a day, Darrell Linhart played football barefoot. Nobody remember that. Not because he couldn't afford shoes, but I think Linhart simply enjoyed the feeling of the freshly mown grass on the soles of his feet. And I remember the day the referees came over and told him to either put on shoes or get out of the game. This football was tough back then. No one was allowed to drink water during practice. That would be considered sissy. Instead, players were given salt tablets to prevent cramps. That explains why so many of them have ended up on operating tables for triple bypass heart surgery. Most football players were wearing false teeth when they walked across the stage to get their high school graduation diploma. That was in the days of cardboard helmets, which eventually gave way to plastic helmets, and then the face mask arrived, followed by the mouthpiece. Those inventions threw dentistry into a recession. Today, NFL stars hold out for more money. In the good old days, another kid would gladly knock your head off just for a chance to wear a football uniform. Back in the 50s, football was played in all sorts of conditions, from driving rain to blizzards. The players sloshed around in the mud and came down with pneumonia. Today, games are postponed because of black clouds and stuff. Back in the 50s, the action didn't always end when time expired in the game. The Hendersonville end retaliated as the players were on their way to the buses. He swatted the back of Leon McLemore's head with a glass Pepsi Cola. The bad blood with Hendersonville had spilled over from the previous year. Greer defeated Hendersonville on the home turf that year and joyfully headed to the post-game meal. Upon arriving at the restaurant to eat, however, the irate restaurant owner informed Coach Phil Clark, "We're closed, we aren't serving tonight." The Yellow Jackets rode home with an empty stomach, although some managed to grab a hot dog at Carolina lunch and stayed open until midnight. That's a couple of things from this book. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Leland. Appreciate you coming out. Where are the books? You got them in the box there. Okay. So we have two published authors here with us tonight, Leland and Eddie. And so we get one of your books too. Eddie wrote a book 3 years ago, maybe? About 3 years ago, about life on the Mill Hill. He lived on the other Mill Hill over there. He called it Weird Mill. Open windows, public mill, occasional train. I read that book, pretty good. I didn't know a lot of the people in it, being from Beckman, but I knew some of them, but I do know your brother Ted. We went all through school together. And I sent the book to my daughter. She lives in California. I sent the book out there to her to read, and she really enjoyed it. Okay, who's up next? Steve? No? Eddie? All right. Eddie Harvey, last time Eddie had some sketches telling some of his stories. As Don said, good storytellers are hard to find. Eddie's a good storyteller. Here he is, Eddie Harvey.